Welcome to No Buzzwords. Michael Love has decided to bail on us today. So in his stead, we have one of our great engineers, Mr. James Newman. He's behind the camera here, but he is mic'd up. Hello, James.
Good morning.
Thanks for filling in. Today in studio, I'm really excited. Michael Love, who's not here, is really excited. James is really excited. We have famous guitarist from Kitsap County, guitar enthusiast, guitar instructor, Mr. Michael Gentry.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming.
Anybody
man.
who's anybody in Kitsap knows.
Anybody
Mr.
who's
Gentry.
anybody. We had Kevin Blackwood on. He was one of our first guests, and I think we talked about you a little bit.
Yeah.
You played with Kevin before?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I've known Kevin literally my whole life. And then I think it was about 2013, I started going downtown Paulsbo and checking out friends' bands that were playing in kind of the bar brewery scene. And he was in all of those bands. Like he's in every band, it seems like.
Oh, man.
Just nonstop.
Yeah, he's nonstop.
He plays like every weekend, doesn't he? Something like that?
Sometimes more than that. Yeah, I mean, it's just like, I've been in two like regular residency bands with him, but I've also played in a couple other bands like Skinny Blue, and I played off and on with Kara Hess, and he's always been her drummer and stuff. So there's always been, it seems like everything I've got into over the last 10 years, he's been most of the time the drummer, and I've played with some other really quality drummers in the area, but Kevin, he's just the guy to hire.
Mm-hmm.
And he can just show up and just do it, you know, and with a good attitude and good execution. So yeah, so it was kind of wild to know him my whole life and be like, man, that guy's so cool, he's such a great drummer, then all of a sudden be attached to the hip to him for years and years and years, like on a weekly basis.
When was the last time you played with him?
A few weeks ago, actually, we had a band with a guy named James Murray, who's kind of a soul musician, and he's doing some other projects now. We took a break. He's moving on to some other things, and we were going to try out some new singers that are friends of ours. So that's the first time we've been in a room together for probably 7 or 8 months, and it's the same thing every time you get in there. You kind of just give each other the look. There's just kind of an unspoken chemistry with myself and then Dan Garcia on bass, who's recorded here with James and stuff. He's been around a long time too. So who plays bass in Planet Groove, one of my older bands. So
And it's always fun to see that dynamic with musicians, especially we went to what was the name of that? It was some worship group thing that they did at Overlake Church every year that all
Christian Musician Summit.
Christian Musician Summit, and they brought in musicians really high end guys, never had played together at all, and to see these guys get together and the level of expertise that each one of them had individually, and can come together and so easily they're just looking at each other and they know exactly how to fall in and do what they do. So
it's wild how that all works. And when I started playing with high caliber musicians like that, where it was very much here's the song, but we're going to treat the song, loosely. We're going to stick to it very, we're going to play the main verses and choruses. Then we're going to spend 5 minutes improvising. Yeah. And then this is where all the knowing somewhat of music theory, knowing, what's a 1 chord, a 4 chord, a 5 chord, and giving each other signals and kind of knowing and stuff. It looks way more intense to the listener, I think, but it is a thing after a while where you play a certain way, improvising and jamming and stuff, and people are how do you just show up and not rehearse and do that? And it's well, there's a number system we use, and there is a system in place. It's not we're just all cocked back with our eyes closed and just mind melding. It's not totally like that. I mean, it kind of is.
It feels like that.
It feels like, well, yeah, if you get in the zone, I mean, sometimes
Ooh.
It gets really psychedelic and you're whoa, wow, where did we go for the last 10 minutes? But it's fun. I personally like structure in music. I like that a lot, but after 10 years of, improvising and jamming and doing that kind of thing, yeah, it's fun, and it's pretty wild the talent you run into, where you're just you're kind of always on your tippy toes and whoa, what's this guy doing? This is nuts, and then you have this joint chemistry that's just, unbelievable.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's wild.
How did you when did you start guitar? Like were you really young? Did you start in your teens?
I was 13, so not super young, but my older brother, he was a musician and obsessed with music. My mom was always obsessed with music. She used to spend all of her years when she was younger just going to shows, buying records, just always listening. So in the house, we always had music playing, and I, even like as a little kid, I had tons of cassette tapes and was always had headphones on, or I had a stereo in my room as a really little kid and always had music playing. MTV was a big deal. So that was always on the TV. So I was absorbing it all the time. And then 13, I had a skateboarding accident and got really hurt. Like, it was bad. And I had to lay up in bed for a while, and I had an old kind of Strat style guitar. And my brother's like, well, we should just string it up, and I'll teach you how to read tablature. And so you go get on the old dial-up internet and, eventually get your guitar tab for, Van Halen or something like that, or something simple. And I picked it up super quick. Like, I was like showing him, he's like, oh, you're kind of picking this up like really quick. And then my dad came home from a trip and he was like, you weren't playing guitar when I left. Now you're playing guitar and actually playing songs. This might be something. And so I got an upgraded guitar, and then that was it. It just nonstop.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you mentioned Van Halen. What other influences were you listening to? There's like, I want to play that style of guitar.
It was wild because of all the years of listening to music. I really liked everything. My brother had kind of somewhat of some control over what I was listening to. He was kind of feeding me the music he liked, which is a lot of like classic rock and 70s and 80s material, and some 90s stuff. But yeah, it was like a lot of like Metallica and the heavier stuff, and Van Halen definitely stood out like a sore thumb. There was a Van Halen VHS at the video store that I used to rent like almost on a weekly basis until they're like, just keep it, dude. Like, you're going to wear it out. And so, which kind of happened. I did wear it out. It did. I think the tape did rip, and I had to, go buy a DVD of it. But I watched that nonstop, like every day, maybe twice a day, just watching and like trying to copy it and stuff. And so, yeah, all the heavy metal guitar players, the shredders, that was like so exciting to me. And then there was kind of a period in time in high school, I had started getting into like Pink Floyd and appreciating maybe some slower guitar players that were powerful. And then I had the Stevie Ray Vaughan moment, which is like what so many guitar players have, where you're just like, oh my gosh, like, what is this? And you didn't know why you liked it so much. Like, it wasn't crazy shred. It wasn't this or that. It was just this intense blues thing, and there was power and emotion behind it. And that kind of shifted everything and stuff. And I mean, I still listen to like shredders and metal music and stuff, but that definitely sent me down another track. And then probably by the time I was 22, 23, I started discovering other blues giants. And then by the time I was playing in Paulsbo, it was like,
Yeah.
the education really started when I started playing in Paulsbo downtown, about 27.
Yeah, because
28.
like my memory of you was you were like this insane shredding guitarist that was doing just crazy shows, and then and talking to Michael recently, we were like, let's get Mike Gentry on, and I was like, yeah, that'd be a great interview. And Michael's like, hey, he's into blues now. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Well, and I remember because we all met at NKBC.
Yeah.
I met James at the high school because he was in a band called Exile.
Yeah.
If you remember that.
Yes. Wasn't David Moyes in that band?
David Moyes was in that band.
Dude, I like
Robert
David.
Williams, Tim LaPresto, Andy
Lepresto.
Milas.
Yeah.
Big Tim.
Big Tim.
Dude. My favorite drummer. I mean, but I mean, so we had like some sort of like just show at the high school in the music room, and my band, which was ridiculous. That band became Standard Unknown, and we played a show together. And that's when I met James, and Tim was like, hey, you should come to our youth group, and that's where David was. And I knew David before he was going to church. So,
Oh yeah. With the long hair.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
like
dude.
I went into Kingston Middle like terrified of middle school, and like, you know, he was the first person I saw get off the bus. He had a leather trench coat, black eyeliner, black nails, and I was like, oh my god, I'm gonna die. I'm not gonna make it through junior high. If that guy's going here. But he played a talent show that year. His band was killer. He was already a ripping guitar player, and he was kind of one of the very early influences of me going, whoa, I should do that. Actually, he was actually a big reason why I was like, oh, I want to play in talent shows and like rock out with my friends. And then I, you know, so he leaves because he was in ninth, I was in seventh. He left the next year, and then I get to high school. I see him, and he comes up, and he's like the most friendly, chilled out dude, not scary anymore. And he's like, "Oh, you should check out my band Exile." And I'm like, "Okay." And then it's all history from there. And then Tim was in classes with me, and then my mom and I started going to NKBC, and then the youth group, and there it was.
Yeah, the youth portable, the days of dude, like
oh my gosh, the youth portable.
That place was just, dude. It was Jesus and rock and roll as well.
And dirty sweat.
Yeah.
Sweaty socks.
Dude, it smelled so bad.
It smelled so bad there.
Especially when Rick Burleson was there, and we were all like, when we weren't Jesus and rock and roll, it was like, can we wrestle? Can we like pin each other? How fast can we pin each other? And Rick's like encouraging us.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen Rick in a while, but I ran into him at somewhere. I think probably the mall. And
I go to church with him now.
Oh really? Yeah.
Yeah.
Super nice guy, and I walk. I'm like, hey, and you know, he's like, oh my gosh, it's always like a big 10-year chunk at a time that I haven't seen him. So
right.
he was rad. And then I remember Duncan came in and everything, and it was a good vibe. Everybody was just, it was probably what I needed at the time too, because I was kind of going down the moody, dark, pre-emo bad attitude, bad attitude, and stuff, and heavy metal, bro. Yeah. But like, no, everybody was just cool. I mean, it was just music, having fun, enjoying life, and it was a good group of friends, and we did all that stuff through high school and together pretty much.
So, through your learning how to play guitar, you're getting through high school, you're getting into a couple bands. When was the first time you were like, you were in a band and you guys played a show and it was a little bit more to you than just like rocking out at a youth portable in front of some friends or something like that, but you're like, oh wow, like this is real and there's people here that don't know us and they're enjoying what we're doing?
I think probably I had a band called Dress to Kill for a long time, and for a couple years. I think one of our first shows was in Seattle at a place called Studio 7 that's not around anymore, and I had seen so many like legendary like old metal bands and stuff play there, so it was already a big deal that we were gonna like play there and open for some really cool local Seattle people. But when we played that show, I mean it was about as packed as that place can be. I don't remember what capacity was in that place. It couldn't have been more than maybe like 200, but a full room's a full room. Yeah. And then when people are, and it was like, we're playing our songs that we wrote. We're, doing the whole stage presence thing.
Yes.
Yeah. You
Dress
know how
to
that,
kill.
oh yeah, exactly. Black Mikey with black hair across his face and everything. It was classic, but the people reacting to like your music, not a cover that you worked up for a month or something, that was kind of like, oh wow, they actually like what we wrote and what we've been like demoing. And that was like kind of and then we were in Seattle, which a Kitsap kid would always take Seattle as a bigger thing than it really was. Like, we're going to the city, bro, and like we're gonna play where like Nirvana played. It's
right.
Like, and it's like it's a bigger deal when you're younger, and so it was a pretty. And then we played I think within the first year we had played the Showbox, which was like jaw dropping. I'm like, oh my gosh, we're in the Showbox market. This is nuts. So that's kind of where it started for me. Was probably that. Between 06 and 07 is when I first got that dose of like, it's not a local show, even though our local shows were awesome. That kind of was the first time we were like, ooh, wow, we're outside of our little bubble of Kitsap, and just getting, appreciated, by total strangers who, and then the need for a copy of our CD afterwards. And then like, even to a point where like people wanted you to like sign them. It was like so strange and weird. And like, we're not that great, but all right, cool, man.
Yeah.
You know, I'll sign it. So that was probably the start of like that.
Yeah.
Like, oh wow, this is kind of a big deal.
Now, is Dress to Kill, is that the forgive me, this is I'm ignorant on this. What's like the largest band you've been a part of thus far, as you know, when it comes to touring and albums and like what you guys do and your popularity? Was it Dress to Kill?
That band was really popular. Like, it didn't go honestly very far, but we had such a great local pull. Like, we would, yeah, I mean, it was always a full show. Like, it was, you know, we had a following, which was that was wild. Even looking back on it, it was just like, wow, that really did the trick. And it was the right style of music at the time that was popular for, you know, it was kind of like that screamo, emo, metalcore thing. Mm-hmm. It was right on time. And then the next band was probably, honestly, out of all the original bands, that was probably the biggest one. That band was called Vessels. Mm-hmm. And it was really heavy, really intense, but, you know, the lyrics were really positive, and I think people really connected to the lyrical, even if you couldn't understand it. You know, you'd go home and read the lyric notes and stuff and be like, oh, okay, that's what I thought he said. You know, yeah. So that's the band that, you know, spent the most time working, writing, probably had the best quality record. We did a couple of tours together, but you know, that was the time where I was about 25. I was really there was something about touring in an old van and not knowing if you were going to eat the next day that I just couldn't deal with. I was like, I don't like this, you know. But I also had an in to go finally work at Guitar Center in Seattle, and that was always kind of like that dream of like, yeah, I want to work in a big music store and like hang out with musicians and talk to musicians, and that finally came about. And so I was like, yeah, I'd rather do this every day than be in a van touring and not knowing if it's going to be 5 kids or 500, you know. It was, you know, but I guess, you know, I guess mentally I just wasn't cut for that risk.
Yeah.
And stuff. And all my other, I have the other guitar player of that band, Anthony Lauer, he's never stopped, and all of his hard work is paid off, and he's in these couple of really big bands right now. They're touring the world, putting out killer records, working with great producers, and it's just like, I couldn't be more proud of him. And it's super pro level, so it's like, I'm glad that the hard work paid off somewhere in that group, and that's, you know, him. So I get to kind of, you know, look at it and go, yeah, that's my guy.
Sweet.
He grunted it out, so it's cool.
So you getting into Guitar Center, how long were you at the Seattle location?
Like 5 years.
And is that where you started? Because you eventually transitioned into teaching as well.
I actually taught way before that, and it was a kind of a blip in time, honestly. But like, people just kind of knew what I was doing on the guitar, and they're like, "Oh, do you teach?" Like, yeah, I'll teach, you know. And I taught a handful of people that were either at NKBC or Gateway, you know, and just kind of got them started on things. And even if it was, sometimes it wasn't even a lesson. It was like, a lot of times it'd be me and somebody sitting with a guitar and talking about music and maybe strumming out a few chords, or just giving like, well, how do you like, I had one student that didn't really play guitar. He just wanted to understand the vision of, like, he liked the music that I was writing and the bands I was in. So he's like, well, I just want to understand how this works and how you record it and demo it out, and I want to be able to do that too. So it was kind of like a guitar, how do you make a demo? Why do I tune the guitar that way? You know, kind of one of those things. So it was kind of all over the place. But the Guitar Center schedule was intense because I had to be there at 8 a.m, living in Indianola. So I had to ride a bus, get on a ferry, then walk from the ferry all the way to South Lake Union, which took 45 minutes, work 8 hours, then do that all, you know, on the way back. So, I mean, it was like a 12, 13, 14-hour day. So I didn't have time. And then when I got into playing locally again downtown, like, I had to, like, actually just cut my schedule down to Monday through Thursday and gig Thursday night through Sunday and have time for that. But it wore out over time for sure. Mm-hmm. It was exhausting.
Mm-hmm. Are you still teaching now?
No.
Not at all.
I get asked, but it's hard because, like, every time I've been like, oh, I could take 5 students or whatever, then something in life gets busy, like whether it was work or gigging or something, and I don't want to be flaky on people or be inconsistent, you know, even though they're probably cool with, like, not having a strict lesson schedule, they'd probably be down for whenever they can get one. But I just haven't got back into it. But recently, you know, I've been reconsidering it, not taking on a ton of people, like maybe no more than 10, but, you know, working at a music store now, I wouldn't be teaching through them, but people come in and they either know me, know through other friends of me, or they see me sitting playing guitar on some downtime and like, oh, did you teach? Can you teach me that? And so I've kind of reconsidered it a little bit, and we'll see where it goes.
Okay.
It's fun. I like it. You know, it's just, it can get hectic. I'm sure Kevin talked about that.
Oh yeah.
too.
Oh yeah. Have you seen there's a South Park episode where the kids are all learning Guitar Hero. Kids are all learning Guitar Hero, and they're all like, they're just loving it. All the kids are over at the house, and the one character, Randy, the dad, comes in. He's like, well, check this out. And he like really knows how to like play really good guitar, and all the kids are like, that's lame. And then they go back to playing Guitar Hero. Yeah. What so in the teaching, and then I guess just, you know, you're still in it, you're still doing stuff. What's the interest level that you're seeing, you know, new generations coming up and learning guitar? Are you seeing a lot of kids still wanting that?
Yeah. Yeah. It's always weird. Like on social media, there's like this crowd of people that want to say like that guitar is dead or rock and roll is dead or this or that. And it's like, you know, I work in a music store and I see these kids come in and I hear what they're playing. And sometimes it's kind of funny because I'll see like a young, like, you know, moody, like teenager come in and start playing all the stuff I used to play when I would go into Ted Brown when I was 15. And it's like, this is so strange, you know, and, you know, it makes me want to like sidle up to him and like riff with him. But I'm like, I'm the old guy now. Like, don't do that, man. Cramping my style.
Okay, so I want to ask you about, you just said something that I've had debates with. So the other guy, Michael Love, that's usually here, talking about whether or not rock and roll is dead.
Yeah.
So you don't think so?
No.
You still?
I mean, you know, I hear big rock stars talk about that on social media. So like, you know, if Gene Simmons of Kiss wants to say that, because, you know, it's like, okay, maybe in your world it is, but like, I see a lot of kids wanting to play instruments. They want to play with their friends. They want to play shows. They want to experience that. And also I see, and being an avid record collector, I see it's cool to see kids going into record stores and buying vinyl and wanting to like experience a physical piece of media. They want to drop the needle, hear side A all the way through and B all the way through. They don't want to be on their phones and kind of pick and choose and skip and make playlists, you know, which I mean, we all do, that's fine. But it's cool that there's like this rediscovered interest. And I think it has a lot to do with like the kids these days, their parents were probably, you know, probably from my age, you know, up into the mid 50s or whatever. So, I mean, we all had tapes, CDs, records. We all had the big CD binder in our car.
Oh, yeah.
And had to make wise choices about what we were going to listen to between Paulsbo and Silverdale.
Yeah, dude, yeah.
Without, you know, having a change of heart.
Kids these days will never know.
No, they don't know. I mean, I was telling a kid, like, man, back in my day, I had this CD and I had a CD player that didn't have skip protection. So I had to, like, hold the CD player and walk down the street very, like, carefully. Yeah. I'm like, you don't know. You don't know struggle, bro. Like, you got your phone or your iPad and your wireless buds and like
the struggle is real.
Oh, dude,
the mixtapes, the mix CDs, all your favorites you put on.
Oh my gosh, half the binder was Monday mix. I'm not happy mix. You know, like this is metal mix.
What was
this is my Tupac mix.
What was the name of the website you could scout music?
Napster?
No. The Livewire, Greenwire.
Oh, LimeWire.
LimeWire.
Oh, like torrenting.
Yeah, torrenting.
Oh man, those were the days.
Yeah, man.
Just like, this album's not coming out for 6 months. Awesome, and it's like, dude, it's okay, you know.
So what's so you're saying rock and roll's not dead? What are some like notable bands now that are like new and they've got kind of like an evolution of music that is moving into this next generation? What are some notable bands that you know of that's like worth a listen?
I mean, across all different. The thing about now is that I think what's cool for me is that I've discovered so many bands randomly through Spotify. Mm-hmm. Like there's always like heat about Spotify and stuff, but the one I'll talk about, the silver lining, is that undiscovered artists will get found through all these like channels there. And I've found so many bands and I'm like, this band is, or this guitar player, or whatever, they're so killer. The production's great. They're only getting 25 listeners a month. And it's like, oh wow, this is literally like a nobody, in the music scene or the industry, but they're putting out records. They totally rip, or maybe it's not even a rock thing. Maybe it's a pop person, or I've even found hip hop that I'm like, this is awesome. Why isn't this what's popular now? Because I can't stand, the current world of like hip hop music. It's just different from what I grew up with. I mean, sure, I guess it's cool to somebody, but it's not like, like it's not Coolio, or it's not the stuff I grew up on, so I don't understand it very well.
Yeah.
But then I find stuff and I'm like, man, that's so like old school or rootsy, or you find these like young kids that are into hip hop or R&B. They're using real instruments, a real band. It's like, man, they're really putting in some serious effort to like get this done, and that's. I mean, I have probably a whole bunch of people that are technically unknown or unsigned on my Spotify that I follow, and they totally deserve it. But that's kind of the beauty now. It's like you couldn't do that when I was in high school, and there's even kids that go to North Kitsap High School that have EPs on Spotify that get, 1,000 plays, maybe a month or something like that. And it's like, well, that's cool. Yeah. So that's kind of like, that's how I kind of see it. There's just tons of people, and especially like I listen to everything, rock, metal. I listen to country. There's a lot of country artists, a lot of bluegrass artists, a lot of people that are just kind of coming out of the woodwork, taking a shot at it. So I think it's really more about the YouTube and TikTok and Spotify. It's letting all sorts of great people that maybe didn't have the means to put out a record or go shop a label and just put themselves out there to get discovered. Let the listener decide who's gonna, be the next big deal in that genre.
Amazing how that happens. Have you heard of Blue Scholars?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went to a show to see the Blue Scholars. They were headlining, and opening for the Blue Scholars was Macklemore before he was what he is now.
Yeah.
And so it's just interesting how, everybody went there for the Blue Scholars, and they're awesome. I love their music.
Yeah.
And, but Macklemore's the one who took off from that.
Well, even our friend Tim LaPresto, he was in a band called Hot Bodies in Motion. And that such a great band, blew up really quick in Seattle. It was exciting. And like they had ties to Macklemore, and he would come and guest. I don't know if he did multiple times or not, or just the one or two times that are on YouTube. And then, Alan Stone was a name that was like kind of bubbling up 10, 15 years ago. And I'm like, man, that guy can really sing. And now it's like he's on, I think American Idol or whatever. Once he's guested on those kind of shows, and I love his records. I've seen him live maybe 3 or 4 times, and he's playing theaters and bigger. And it's like, man, he's from Spokane. So I guess it's always, that's the funny thing where it's like, oh, this person's from Bremerton. Like, that's probably not going to happen, or they're from Paulsbo, or whatever. And it's just kind of talent comes from every corner, and it's like, you'll see somebody be like, oh, they're good. But never expect for them to have their moment. And they do. Yeah. It's awesome.
Yeah. I feel like, the little bit I do know, but I feel like Kitsap aside from Seattle, I think we're kind of known for our local music scene here. Kitsap, Jefferson, Port Townsend.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like a lot of people care about our music here. Are you seeing like an increase in like, are more venues popping up? Are more people putting in effort to grow our kind of local community of musicians?
So that was kind of the thing about when I started playing in like the Paulsbo scene. In 2013, there was so many bands, and there were so many good guitar players and good singers. Like, it was kind of like it was a magnet for me. I'm like, oh, maybe I can find a spot in all this. And Kitsap is kind of this thing where it's like there's just all sorts of wild talent tucked away here. And yeah, a lot of people get kind of, it's a lot of bars, breweries, wineries. There's some venues like theaters, festivals. We have the fair, rodeo. I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do in the county. I think there's kind of a weird, people kind of think, or look down at the idea of bar bands. The thing that was kind of the shift for me was like, these bar bands it wasn't like a bunch of like dudes just sweating it out playing Sweet Home Alabama and Freebird all night. This was like,
which has its place.
no, it totally does. Like, I'll do it, just put a tip in the tip jar or something. Yeah. But like, no, but the talent level and the originality of what was in this area was blowing my mind. Because from my earlier days, I was in the metal scene and a punk scene. So like, I didn't understand that there was, I always wanted to be a blues guitar player and a guitarist, and like, I didn't know that was alive out here. And then when I came down to Paulsbo and was playing these places and met my friend James Redfern and Shaban Tiger and then the Planet Groove guys. And it just was like, I was so floored. And then that just progressed over the years, and some people from Seattle would come over and be like, whoa, there's like a real thing out here. And it's like, yeah, it's kind of random, but it's true. And a lot of it was kind of in the North End. And then there was some Bremerton musicians that would, put together some things, some jams, and there'd be people that were just jaw-dropping good. And then you discovered some of the people that have been here all along for decades. Like I took lessons from Roger Ferguson, and he's always been one of my favorite guitar players. He's kind of bluegrass based, like kind of a Tony Rice kind of guy in my mind. He's probably much more than that. Al Alto, he's a older gentleman that he hosts a lot down in Bremerton, and that guy's just insane, and he's been here since the 70s at least. So there's just this thing about Kitsap, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's in the water. I don't know.
Yeah. I live just down the road from that Olala the Bluegrass Festival that they do every year, and the talent that comes in there from our local folks is I had no idea. Went down there, and kind of going back to talking about just being able to play off of each other, and these musicians get in there, they've never met, and they just sit in a circle and just nod of the head, and all of a sudden someone's soloing, and it's incredible.
I haven't made it down to that festival or that venue, but I've heard a lot about it, and I recently looked it up on Instagram. I think they have an Instagram page, or might have been Facebook, and they had a lot of followers. I was like, okay, this is a big deal.
There was like 2,500 people out there or something like that when I was there listening. And I think they do it late July. What other music festivals in the area are like really like you would highly recommend going to?
Well, so in Paulsbo, there's the Paulsbo Blues and Jazz Festival. They just did their second year doing that, and that's been really successful.
Dave Lambert, doesn't he help with that?
He was providing venue space for it. Yeah. And then I guess the fairgrounds last year had an actual blues festival. It was the first year doing it, but they actually had some big national names, like some national acts come in, and I didn't even know about it, which was kind of funny. I went to a record store and saw a flyer for it, and I was like, what is this? And just the names, I was like, wow. So they're trying to pull some people in too, which, I mean, we used to have back in the day at the fairgrounds, N-Fest. You remember N-Fest?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, and that was big bands. Like I mean, of course, of the time, like it was Deftones and Papa Roach and, some heavy hitters, and then, I mean, back in the 90s, we had a Lollapalooza out here, which there's a lot of footage on YouTube of, like Soundgarden and Pearl Jam played it. And I think Chili Peppers maybe too, but it's like, we have the means for this kind of traffic. Like, it's just kind of, and it's always been like, oh, big artists or the artists you want to see come to Tacoma, Seattle. It's like, well, why not Kitsap? Like, there's obviously a lot of people out here that love music, support music, play music. Why isn't the pavilion, the Kitsap Sun Pavilion, doing, 2,000 seat, shows or whatever? Why are why isn't there more of that? And I don't know what the real answer is behind that, but I feel like Kitsap is growing so fast, and I feel like with that growth needs to come some things like that. Like, we should have some sort of festival where we have some, at least one mega headliner, even if it's Death Cab for Cutie, who's local, Ben's from here, or whatever. Like, bring something, and we have, Viking Fest, Whaling Days, the Kingston, festival in the summer and everything. And, we have all these great outdoor things to do and nice stages. And, there's been some opportunities, at least for me, to play like the Admiral Theater a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
That's epic. It's cool to go from a small room to that, so I think like all the places are here, all the venues and outdoor areas are here. Like somebody needs to find a way to pull people in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about, man, CDs in your car that you want to throw in between Paulsville and Silverdale. Death Cab was there for me.
Yeah.
Organizing all my Death Cab CDs.
Oh, yeah. Of course.
What's so you've kind of now you exclusively do, well, not exclusively. You focus on blues a lot right now. Is kind of what you're doing guitar wise.
That's been kind of the focus for the last since 2013-14. When I started working at Guitar Center, like I was surrounded by like really good musicians and it was really super intimidating. I had already been playing blues for a long time, but I was kind of like stuck in like one little box of it.
Mm-hmm.
And these other guys that I was working with, I mean, they were just jaw dropping. And there was some country guys, some jazz guys, and some other shredders and stuff. So I was just surrounded by 10 or 15 other really good players, and I just absorbed it. And then our Gibson rep, Danny Hofer, we ended up becoming really good friends, and he played in Tower of Power in the 70s for a period of time. And just a ripping guitar player, very jazz, kind of like a George Benson type. Great sense of tone and everything. He was very encouraging, and it's kind of like when you're around each other, you play things, you're like, oh, what's that? Oh, what was that? And then you just kind of, after 5 years of sharing licks and kind of giving each other knowledge and stuff, you fall into this. So by the time the Paulsville thing happened, I mean, my education I had to dive in and learn fast. Like with Chabon Tiger, like James Redfern played with him forever, and then James like, hey, can you fill in for this gig? Sure. Can you fill in for that gig? And then after a while I was like, I don't have time for these gigs. I got my solo thing. I'm going to Seattle. So I got his Brass Kraken, well, it was the port side at the time, but the Chabon Tiger gig, and then his Planet Groove gig. And with Planet Groove, it was just like 3 hours of like mass hysteria. It's like, here's the song, we're going to play 1 minute of it, and then everybody in this band's going to have a solo. And it was just like, keep up. And it was like, I just learned like what 1-4-5 was. So I'm like, what? So it was just like guitar solo, saxophone solo, other guitar solo, bass solo, drum solo. It was just like, it was off the charts. So I had to learn really quick, like how to fit in. Cause this wasn't like, oh, I'm playing this song and here's my big moment. No, you just need to the moment is from 8 o'clock to like midnight. Go. And it's just like, oh my gosh. And then through that time, it's like you learn to improvise, you learn to you have to be a really good rhythm player. And then just being next to guitar players like Chabon and James and Rafael Tranquilino and all those guys that have played with a bunch, you just absorb, and it's pretty wild how you have to like get there. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, if you don't know, now you know.
How many of these guys are like, they're getting a decent part of their income from this, this music, the amount of music that you guys do versus how many are just, full time somewhere and do this every evening?
It's mixed. Like for me, the majority of my income is from music. I mean, I'm very lucky to be in that position and have been for quite a while. And to be working at a music store where I can, sell instruments, talk shop, be community and stuff, and have that's really special too. Kevin's been a working musician for a long time. He's also been obviously an instructor for a long time. So, and I would say it might be 50-50 or maybe it's 60-40 or 70-30. I don't know. I have my main group right now is the Rising Suns. It's an acoustic duo, and my partner in that, he works for Avalera, and that's a tax software company. So I mean, he's got a big role in a big company, but he's got, lots of time to play gigs and record records and everything. And I think that's the thing. It's like technically he's a working musician, but he's got a full-time job and career and everything. And so I think there's a lot of people that can make it work, and there's some people that can't balance it, and and I think I mean it's not very easy to just own a home and car and family and go gig 4 or 5 days a week. But some people make it work, and some people have side income, or maybe that's their side income. So
yeah,
it's just anybody that gets to do it and have any sort of substantial usable income out of it. So that's pretty cool to be something a little bit more than a hobbyist. That's
yeah.
fun.
And even talking to Kevin and talking to you too, it's like, I think a lot of people that have aspirations of being like a rock star or a professional musician, like they're looking at their favorite bands, they're looking at them and, making millions of dollars, playing massive shows all the time. But a lot of you are, you're finding music in a lot of different areas and locations, whether it's teaching, whether it's doing gigs, whether it's working at, a music store, and your whole life, you're surrounded by music, and you're gaining income from all these different channels, which I think is a lot, probably a better bet for a lot of, I don't know if you've ever had to counsel some like high schooler, and it's like, I want to be a rock star, and, kind of lay it out of, well, this is how I make money, or how you can make money in music.
Yeah. I mean, I get asked, from time to time, like, how do you do it? Like, how do you make money? It's like, well, I go play, and it's hard to explain to somebody. It's like, I've had some good questions, asked to me, like, where it's like, hey, how do I make this work? How can I make money doing it? It's like, well, you just need to get yourself established, and, and one gig turns into two, and two turns into three. And then maybe one of those turns into a weekly, bi-weekly thing. And then, I mean, the last 10 years has flown by like in a blink of an eye. And it's like, I had, no gigs. I was just showing up to venues and, sitting in for a couple songs. Then all of a sudden I was in a band, then 2 bands, then 3 bands, and then 5 bands, and then recording for this person and demoing for this person. And, and then it went from like, oh, I'm in a rock band, a blues band, an acoustic duo. It's like, it's just, you kind of just have to be a little bit of a yes man too. That's the other trick. Like, you just have to be down to play and take chances. And, after a while you can make the call, like, nah, that's not my thing. I don't need to say yes to that. Yeah. But yeah, it's just, widening your horizons. It's just be open to all genres, all people, be kind, be, teachable, I guess, excuse me. Don't have an ego. Excuse me.
Are there a lot of hotheads? Is there a lot of ego in music? Do you see that? Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Excuse me. You guys are choking me out here.
So you're at Ted Brown right now?
Yeah, I've been there for 10 years with a couple of gaps in there.
And there are, I mean, I know they're local. Are they go beyond just being local, or are they a pretty local company?
It's Washington based. So it started off in Tacoma, and they've been around for, I believe, 97 years.
Oh, wow. 97 years?
Yeah. I want to say it's 97. It's 90s ish. But yeah, it's been around that long. There's 6 stores.
And they've done exclusively music stuff that whole time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's all music stuff. It was instrument. I mean, it started off as like sheet music and radios and some instruments, pianos, orchestra instruments, I think. And then over time, yeah, it just progressed into whatever was, popular at the time. A lot of instruction. They've been also very known for renting out instruments to kids and,
high school band.
Schools. Yeah, all that. Elementary, middle school, high school. So they've been a big pillar in music education and, just music in general.
Do you get to see that the rental process into high schools right now? Do you see a lot of that just working at Ted Brown? Like, personally, I'm just wondering, what instrument do you see going out the most that kids want to pick up in high school band?
Well, yeah, the schools, they kind of have their list. It's band and orchestra, so it's flutes, clarinets, trumpets, trombones, saxophones. And then at some points the orchestra stuff out comes in, so it's violin, viola, cello for the most part. And then we have percussion kits, which is like a snare drum and a bell kit. You know, and there's some other, you know, we have oboes and bass clarinet and bari sax, you know, tuba. I mean, we pretty much can get anybody really anything that the schools are needing.
Yeah.
And then we were definitely, you know, providing for a while the marching clothes for the kids that had to be in the parades and stuff like that. So, really everything, you know, it's pretty awesome.
And what are you doing there? Like, what's your official capacity there? I mean, you're not teaching.
No.
You said.
Yeah, I've always been in sales. I was kind of the main guitar tech there for a while, and then when I moved to Texas, we hired a guy named Owen, and he took over in that spot. And then when I came back, I was just like, you know, you're doing a really good job. You should just stick with this. So he's kind of the head guy. I'll kind of back him up from time to time, and we have another guy there that's you know, learned how to solder really well, and he's doing like the replacing of the output jacks and pickups and whatnot. So we kind of got there's a few of us that can kind of bounce off of each other for certain things. So it's pretty cool.
Okay.
It's a good vibe. And then our store manager, Clark, he's been there for 7 years, and he's an amazing figure, you know, to have. He's super positive, super kind, and great guy to work for, and great person to be friends with. So that adds to the want and the need to be there too. It's just like we're a really tight unit there.
Okay.
So it's fun.
Being in guitar sales, what is in your opinion, Mike Gentry's opinion, what is the creme de la creme, the best guitar you can buy?
Oh, no.
If you had the money, if anybody had the money, what's your thoughts?
Oh, I wish I was a car salesman and had one answer for that, but I care enough to like go deeper than that with people, even if it's a starter. Like, I can't just be like, you know, that one right there, that's yours. Buy it. It's gonna bring you millions, record deals. Do it, dude. It's not like that for me. Like, I always have a deeper conversation, and that's probably why I've been doing it for as long as I have and had, you know, success and repeat customers. It's just like, it's a conversation, you know, and it's like, yeah, you can buy the $3,000 Fender or Martin or Taylor or whatever, and it's going to be great, and will take you a long way for sure. But, yeah, I mean, for Ted Brown, we carry a lot of Fender and PRS and Taylor and higher end, you know, Yamaha and stuff like that. We just started buying in used equipment. So that's kind of been cool, because now there are Gibsons or Martins on our shelves that are used at, you know, a discounted price, obviously. So people have an opportunity locally to get into that too as well. So
you're not like exclusively like a Strat guy or Gibson guy, Fender guy.
Well, personally, I have Gibsons and Fenders, yeah.
Okay.
And Martins now. But that's where the conversation is, because like, if there's a metal kid that comes in, you're not going to want to recommend him a Strat or a Tele. You know, you got to kind of tailor it to their, what do you play? What do you like? Oh, I like Megadeth, bro. Okay, well then that one, you know, that's the only one I got too, you know, or it's, you know, it's a fun process to dig into what kids are into, or even like older people like that are my age or older. Like, you know, you just like, oh, I really love Hendrix, or I really like, you know, I like even like all the bass guys. Like, I'm not a bass player. I can play bass, but like, you know, you get into these conversations, you talk about records, and you're like, oh, I know where this guy's at. And you just start putting things in people's hands and let them kind of make the decisions.
Yeah.
Don't be a helicopter like parent about it. Be like just the supporting, like, here, try this first.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're coming up on time. Anything else you want to say about your band? What are you guys doing? What, you got any big shows coming up? Anything people need to watch out for?
Yeah, like I said earlier, I'm in a group called the Rising Sons, SONS. So we're on Instagram and Facebook. We play at Sully's in Suquamish every Monday, 5:30 to 7:30.
Oh, cool.
So that's where people can totally find us on the regular. And we're always playing all over the county. So, I mean, and we have a lot of shows, you know, every month, you know, at different breweries and wineries and little venues and stuff. So best way to do is just go onto Instagram or Facebook and find it, and we'll be posting our shows. And it's a cool project. It's different for me, and it's different for Tace. and but it's fun. The songs that we write we like them, and people are enjoying them. So that's kind of my main focus right now, is that group and working at the music store. So
Sweet.
come find me and come chat.
Come buy a guitar from Mikey.
Yeah, sure.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.